Today we're going to look at the Sigma 16mm f1.4 DC-DN lens on the Sony a6500. Let's go! What's up everybody? Phil with Photo Gear Fun with another review. Today we're looking at the Sigma 16mm f1.4 DC-DN contemporary lens. It's a great little lens for Sony. They also make it for Micro Four Thirds and a couple of other mounts. If I happen to look down during this video, I'm just looking down at my notes. I'm not ignoring you. Just want to make sure that I get all the facts straight. So it is a lens that has 16 elements in 13 groups. It's a very, very light lens. It's under a pound, about 15.8 ounces. It does not have image stabilization. So on the Sony a6500, that's not a big deal because it has built-in IBIS, image stabilization in the body. But for others, you might want to consider the fact that it has no IS. The aperture range is f1.4, which is really, really bright, or what some call fast, to f16. So it's got a pretty good aperture range. The autofocus seems to be fast. It seems to be a little bit noisy, but we'll get into that. What we want to do is kind of just walk you through the build quality, the handling, talk about its video capabilities, talk about its audio capabilities. So here it is on the a6500. You can see that it seems to pair up pretty well. And by the way, this entire video is being shot on the a6500 with this lens. So you can see if you look in the background here, I'm shooting this at f1.4, which is the most wide open aperture, so you can see that it's a pretty creamy background. And I'm going to walk you through kind of an aperture step up with video. So you can see f1.4 will go up probably to f5.6. And if you pay attention to the background, you'll notice that that background definitely does look different. I'll also show you some photos that have different apertures from 1.4 to 5.6. The build quality, it's plastic, but it seems like it's high quality plastic. You can see it here. And this is a prime lens, which means it doesn't zoom at all. It's just got one focal range, which is 16 millimeters. So normally you would have a focus ring and you would have a zoom ring. In this particular case, this just has a focus ring. You can see it's rather large. It turns pretty well. I think maybe just a little bit on the easy to turn side, but I think it has probably just the right amount of tension. It's a focus by wire system, which means that when you turn it, the focus ring will just continue to turn. It communicates with the camera through its electronic connections. For the build quality, you can see that it has a metal lens mount, and you can see that the contact's there to communicate with the camera. It also has a little seal, which Sigma's calling this dust proof, so you can see that it would be dust proof and splash proof as well. Overall, I think the build quality, it's pretty good. It's a light lens, which is great. Makes it easy to carry around on this a6500. Seems to balance pretty well, which leads me into the handling. Again, it seems like it pairs pretty well. If you look at it, it's not really front heavy on the a6500. You can see it here again on the a6500. The focus ring, like I said, it does turn. I think it turns well. It's dampened, but it's not dampened too much. So it's really not too stiff. Again, maybe just a little bit on the lighter to turn or easier to turn side. For video, again, you're seeing it now. And this video is being shot at f1.4. Again, if you pay attention to the picture up here in the corner, as we ramp through these different apertures, you'll see that will change. Now I'm going to have to change either my ISO setting or sensitivity light, or I'll turn my lights on, because right now I'm filming and it's a fairly overcast day. I've just got some window lighting over here. But because this is a 1.4 aperture, I don't have any lighting on. My ISO is set to 200. So this lens really allows me not to have to worry about external lighting, although I do have lights and I might have to turn those on. So this is at f1.4. We're going to step it up to f1.8. And I didn't change anything other than the aperture. So this is f1.8. Again, pay attention to the photograph over here and you'll see. I'm just going to ramp up. So you can see now it's getting a little darker. And that photo is becoming a little bit more in focus. And again, just a little bit darker. I'm going to go ahead and turn those lights on. So now you can see with my lights on, again, I'm just going to walk through the apertures. And again, pay attention to that photograph, and you can see that will start to come into focus. And I don't know if you can pick up that autofocus noise. It's definitely there. Again, something to pay attention to when you're vlogging. I'm going to go ahead and change the ISO as well here. Bring that up a little bit to compensate. And you can see with each click of the aperture ring, it gets a little darker, but again, that photograph becomes more in focus. And I'm changing the ISO as we go here. Make sure I get the proper exposure. And I'll put the settings that I have overlaid so you can see the settings. So again, you can see that photo here is definitely sharper. So I'm going to take it all the way back to f1.4 and again pay attention to the background basically. So here we are back at f1.4 and again you can see the background nice and creamy. Turn the lights off, so this is just all natural light. So it's definitely a great lens for low light. It'd be a good lens for astrophotography, which leads me into the next section here. Talk a little bit about photography. I didn't really buy this for photography. I'll show you some pictures here. Basically, I went from f1.4 on some flowers to f5.6. You can see this flower. I just happened to catch a bug on this one. f1.4. And then this is f5.6. So you can see even though it's a 14mm lens, fairly wide, you can still get really creamy bokeh, and you can get really, really close. The minimum focus distance on this is just inches, so you can get really close to your subject. And then I took a couple shots of the butterfly bush, one of my favorite subjects. And this is at f1.4. And again, you can see the background is just completely obliterated. And you can see that it's a really shallow depth of field, so only a small part of that flower is in focus. And now here is f5.6, that same basic shot. So what do I think? I think it's a great lens. I think it's a great value. Currently it sells for $450 or so on Amazon in the US. My pros are, it's got good autofocus. It's a light lens, it's easy to travel with. It's got great depth of field. Obviously that f1.4 aperture really allows you to let in a lot of light. And again, you might be able to use this for astrophotography, although I heard there are some issues with Sony bodies in astrophotography. I haven't tried it, but it should be a pretty good astrophotography lens. It's splash proof and dust proof as well, so it will provide some sort of protection from the elements. I wouldn't really say it's waterproof or dust proof, but there is a rubber gasket, as you can see here, that will give you some protection against the elements. The cons really, the autofocus is noisy, and that's not a big deal necessarily unless you're vlogging. And I'll link a couple videos up here that I did on the autofocus noise and a possible solution for that autofocus noise. And there's some CA, chromatic aberrations, or kind of green fringing, and you can see that in some of my videos. I've used this lens on the A7 as well as the a6500 to shoot quite a few videos, and sometimes where there's like really deep contrast, you can see that there's a little bit of green specifically for video in this one. Not a big deal, only at f1.4. If you stop it down to f1.8, that really seems to go away. This is Phil with Photo Gear Fun. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. If you do subscribe, click on that bell icon, and that will allow you to be notified whenever we come out with a new video or we go live. Thank you so much for taking the time to view this video. Now go out there and have your photo gear fun. We'll see you again in the next video.